Hi there everyone, it's Misty here from TheJollyFatElf. Happy Wednesday. Thanks so much for joining me today. So I have an exciting announcement for you today. So as you guys know, I joined the ScrapbookPal.com designing team. My video actually went up yesterday on the Scrapbook Pal YouTube channel. So I will try to remember to link that down below if you want to go check it out. And then I decided to join Anthony's Papercraft, their design team as well. So the card I have for you today is using one of those beautiful fireplaces and that Christmas garland. And you guys, this card is beautiful. I hate tooting my own horn, but this card is so beautiful. Like, this card is so beautiful. This card is so beautiful, I would put it in a frame and put it up as decoration. It's just so pretty. It turned out way better than I thought it did. I'm using a Craftsman, the Craftsman style fireplace, which if you didn't know, that's one of my most favorite styles of architecture. I am so much of a transitionalist that I love wainscoting and thick molding and thick baseboards and crown molding and just, oh, the beautiful millwork in those types of houses, but with non-traditional colors. Like, I love navy and purple and gray. So anyway, yeah, so let's head over to my craft table and I'll show you this beautiful stamp and then how I turned it into a gorgeous card. For the frame of the mirror, I am using a metallic permanent marker. So a metallic Sharpie will do. This is just a no-name metallic marker that I had in my stash, and it's silver. Initially, I went with bronze, but I felt like it blended in too much with the actual fireplace. And I thought if this was my fireplace, I would do something like silver, which stood out a little bit. And what I love is this kind of meshes with the copper behind it to make more of a pewter than such a gray, a cool silver. So this is one I stamped earlier that I forgot the mask when I was stamping it. So I'm using it to test it. I'm just using a couple of grays, like C00, I think. And then like one of the really light beiges. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of blue to also add just a little bit of reflection. I don't want a whole bunch of stuff. I'm using the gray to kind of add a little bit of shadow. Like I said, in person, this really looks like a mirror, but on camera, it's kind of hard to capture because they're just so stinking light. You really like colors. So for the garland, I'm using making a red garland. It was really hard for me not to do silver and purple, but I resisted and I went ahead and did more traditional with the red. And oh my gosh, this bow is the most beautiful bow I've ever seen in my entire life. So I just filled in all the darkest areas first, and then I'm going darkest to lightest. Now, someone left a comment, and I'm not sure if I've responded to it or not yet. And they're like, well, do you color light to dark or do you color dark to light? And I color both ways. If it's a bigger image, if it's a bigger space, like with the fireplace, I started with the lightest image, with the lightest color. For this bow, since most of it is a little bit smaller, like each individual loop of the bow is smaller, I started darkest to lightest. And that's just so I have enough room to put in my darkest shadows before I lighten it up. But either way works. Either way is fine, whatever you're most comfortable with, however you get the best blends. It's really up to you. There's no really right or wrong way on that. It really just depends on each individual person. So I'm using some light greens to color this fireplace because like I mentioned, I think I wanted this to look like glass tile, like a jade glass tile, or like even like a milk glass, if you know what I'm talking about. And so I used some really light greens. And thank you, Sandy Allnock, for that hex chart, because that has been the real MVP of this card. Let me tell you, because it gives you the colors that are side by side that aren't necessarily a blend, like they're not in color, like they're not in number order. It's just colors that are close together that you can use. And that's exactly what I did for this one. I really, really wanted it to look like jade or like a green glass tile. And I think I really achieved the look of that. And again, I want it to look weathered. I didn't want it to look like it would be brand new. And I think I achieved it. Like, I was just so proud of the way this fireplace, the tile and the insert turned out. I think it just turned out so good. I mean, this whole card, listen to me, this whole card is probably the best of my career ever in my life, and I've been crafting for a decade. This may be the best thing I've ever created. Even not my little bunnies. This is probably even better than that. It's just such a fun image to color. It's such a fun image to just transform. Hi, Roxy. You coming to say hi to mamas and to peoples? So I'm going to bring in a little bit of a darker green to darken up what would be grout lines, because if this is tile, then that's, it's grouted. So that's what I've done here. And again, I'm just going over it and I'm making sure that I keep it really, really light in the middle. And I'm just going back and forth with that lightest color to make sure that I'm adding a bit, keeping it light. And then I brought in a little bit of a more yellow toned, again, to make it lighter in the middle. So for the fire, I'm going to use a red and a yellow and an orange. And I'm keeping it pretty simple, really. The surround is going to be a little bit more involved, but the flame is pretty simple. This doesn't look like a real flame. I mean, come on. My ability only goes so far. So again, I'm bringing in the hex chart to see what colors I want to use for the wood. I knew that I wanted the wood logs to be a cooler tone brown. The fireplace is very, 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 very warm, and I wanted the logs to be very cool. And initially, I considered doing birch logs, so they would be white with some bits of gray, but I thought, nope. Nope. I don't want them to be a focal, like a huge focal part, and focal image. And I thought that if they were white, it would really detract from the beauty of the fireplace. So for this, they kind of blend in, and that's kind of what I wanted them to do. So I brought in a lighter color to add the glow around the fire, and I'm making this a little bit larger because I am going to go around this with some grays. And again, this is the inside of the insert, so it would be really dungy and dirty because of all the soot and stuff in the back of it. So I just made sure to darken this up. Initially, I considered making the underneath where the ash would be of the wood to make it a little bit lighter, but I just decided to go dark and deep all around it because, again, like I said, this isn't the focal point. This is just, part of it. I wanted the whole thing to be more of a focal point. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just blending this out with all the colors. And then once I've done that, then I'm going to move on. So I wanted to pick a lighter pink that would serve as the red reflection of the bow in that mirror. So if that's a mirror, then there's going to be some reflection. For the berries, I just used the two darkest colors of the three reds that I used on the bow. And I just went over it. They're so tiny. Initially, I thought, well, maybe I will do some like metallic, like I could have used a Sharpie. I thought that would be a little too thick, but now as I'm sitting here talking about it, I have the Delicata ink and I have a blender pen, so I could have done that, or I could have used a Versa marker and heat embossed the berries, but I like how this turned out. And I'm bringing in a really light pink to go behind them again to add a little bit of a reflection behind those berries in what is supposed to be a mirror. So I decided to bring in a little bit of navy to go on this little wood holder. I don't know what these are called, a wood holder. We have a gas fireplace with gas logs, so don't ask me. And when I grew up, we didn't have a fireplace. We just had a wood stove. So here I knew I wanted those three tiles to stick out. So I started with the lightest color, but I brought in a much brighter green. And here I'm testing it to see or it's actually a YG. So I'm testing it to see what it's going to look like to make sure those two colors blended okay. And let me tell you, I think it turned out perfect. So I'm making this vase, jug, whatever you want to call it, red. And what I love about this is I didn't add, I wasn't intending for it to look like it was lit up from the flame. But since that lightest color is again like closest to the flame, it really looks like it's got light on it. And so what I love about this stamp too is the artist has given you the places that need to be deep. So you can really see that here on this piece of this jug or whatever it is. I'm using the darkest color to really hit those lines that the artist has given us. So here's where we're going to get a little creative and do a little DIY. I wanted this to be in a room. I decided that's what I wanted to do. So this first line is my baseboard. So when you're looking at this, if this was a real fireplace, with the perspective, the fireplace would be against the wall, but the hearth would be coming away from the wall. So the wall would end basically kind of where the hearth started. So that's why I did that. This is a pen from American Crafts, but you can get, I think, like a lapel pen. If you search like Copic friendly ink pens, like some people use Faber-Castells, there's all sorts of things out there. If you just Google search it or even YouTube search it. I mean, YouTube is probably my number one search engine if I need to do something. So initially I made the baseboards way too small. I mean, it's me. What am I talking about? We always do. And of course I didn't do it in pencil, so I had to color in with a black. But you know what? I really, really love this because as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a transitionalist. And what that means is your design style is very much traditional, but you do it in a modern way. So let's talk about my dining room. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If I can remember, I will post a picture, but I have wainscoting and it's beautiful, but the color scheme is navy, magenta, and green. And we did a houndstooth pattern on the wall. So it's very much a traditional room between the table and the chairs and our sideboard and the wainscoting, but it's in the crown molding, but it's done in a very modern color palette. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't know why I've already lost the point of that. But anyway, that's what this was about. So I was imagining this was either beadboard on the wall, or maybe this could be just like lined wallpaper, or just molding on the wall. So I'm darkening up the line so it's more like a groove. And here I'm just adding a little bit of shading around. And I initially did this in cool grays, which I'm not sure why I did that since the fireplace is so warm, and I don't know that I would have a cool gray with a warm fireplace. I'm not one to mix cools and warm tones. It's just not what I do. But it was looking okay, but I decided in a minute to go over it with some navy markers. And I didn't share that because I literally just glazed over it with a marker. So I've decided this needs a floor. So initially I was trying to have the wood like line up with the tile, and Rob's like, you can't do that because this perspective is different. And he's like, just make them horizontal. And I was like, this is why I married you. I love you so much. So I'm just measuring out and I'm drawing a line all the way across. So this is going to look like hardwood floor. And you guys, I am so impressed with myself for the way I did this hardwood floor, because in person, and I'll try to get an up close picture of it, but in person, it looks like wood. Like it looks like wood. And I was like, I did that. So I amazed myself. That doesn't always happen. I mean, like I said, sometimes my cards, like the Smurf card, I didn't amaze myself. I was amazed that I was able to make something great out of it. But this is one that I'm like, okay, wow. I really, really love. And this is so different than my normal style. Like normally I'm very big into whimsy, and this is not the least bit whimsical at all. So I'm bringing in some lighter some earth tones, because a lot of times in craftsman homes, the floors would be pine, and pine would be kind of a honey colored pine. So I'm using the darkest color to kind of color where the grooves would be. So again, between each piece of wood, there would be a groove. And then, I think it's called tongue and groove, right? So then I'm going over it with the lightest color. And then I'm going to bring this mid-tone color in to darken up around it again, to kind of add a little bit of shading, and to give it a real look of like real wood. I mean, I just can't believe how this turned out. Seriously, can't believe it. I cannot believe it. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do to make the wood grain. I knew I didn't want to use markers, so what I decided to do was bring in some Crayola colored pencils. I could have grabbed my Prismacolors, but I decided just to use these because I'm literally just going to flick it on the paper. And I wanted to make sure that I had some tones that would go well with this. And again, I'm just like scratching across. I'm not like, there's no rhyme or reason. I'm just adding like some flicking motions, and I'm just kind of flicking it in. But seriously, I love how this turned out. And I used that pencil to kind of darken things on top of the Copic. Pencil works on top of Copic. It's no problem. Yeah, just so good. You guys will have to let me know what you think of this card. My question of the day will be, did you think that was a mirror? Was that a mirror or was that just part of the molding? That is my question of the day. Make sure you check out Anthony's Papercraft for these. I believe he has all of the fireplaces in stock, and I have all 3 of them, and they are absolutely gorgeous. So pretty. And I didn't mention earlier, but when I was coloring the holly, I'm literally just flicking. I'm not trying to color in those, little spiky things. I'm just flicking around it and, just adding more, and it really turned out really well. So I've been bringing some Nuvo drops to color in the ornaments. So I have a silver, I think this is a pearl. This one doesn't have any glitter in it. And then I'm going to bring in a copper and a gold with glitter. And this just turned out so pretty. And I considered adding some clear drops on the mirror, but I decided I just went over the berries instead. So that's today's card, guys. I mean, this was a monster to do, but I enjoyed it so much. It was just so soothing. I was just able to sit down, turn on some YouTube videos, and just color to my little heart's content. There, I'm trying to make sure it's not too flat. And then I'm going to bring in a new Nuvo pen. So it's going to be a little much, but it'll be okay. When it dried it back beautiful. And I went over it again with the marker, so we could get a little bit of that red back. So I used it with the wet one, then I brought my dry one in to kind of spread it around. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you check out Anthony's Papercraft. I really appreciate you guys. I will see you Friday for another card in my 2020 holiday card series. Bye for now.